This is my current setup with the LXD75. I have a coma corrector on it, as well as a off-axis guider made by Batter, both made by Batter Planetarium, and I got my Orion Starshoot guide camera for auto guiding. And last night I just spent about 3 hours, 2 hours, trying to set it up in the dark, which is, of course, the instructions and everybody else tell you don't do that. I fully see why now you don't do it, because hard to see here, but there's a lot of little dowels here, or recessed Allen head screws that allow, or that facilitate adjustments, minute adjustments, or big adjustments if you want to the alignment of the prism inside here. I can make it show up, but there's a prism inside there, and yeah, you can't see it, but to get that prism aligned just right, it's going to give you the best optical output for the camera. And I had it set up wrong initially because it came in the box loose, so I had to align it, and I never did until here it is, 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to do it in the dark. It's a nightmare. Not to mention, I have never used this guider, this off-axis guider mount, as well as the camera before. So trying to get them to be aligned and talking right, talking meaning in agrees with each other, because I was set the focus, the in travel for my focuser for my SLR camera, and then go to my guide camera and be out of focus. But really, and so now I set this, and then now this is out of focus. And so I had to get them in agreements where changing the depth of the camera here, as well as I removed a spacer that was between this here holder as well to the prism. It's probably about maybe a quarter of an inch I removed to get it so that now I can have this locked in focus. And then I went ahead and adjusted this so now that this is focused. But I didn't do this until after the sunlight came up, which of course is a little bit too late now. But now that it is set up and locked in, and I torqued everything down so that when next time I do take it out, I won't have to fiddle with this. This will be corrected, which was a nightmare. Also, dealing with my modified LXD75, I changed the focuser to a moonlight focuser over the stock plastic one. This is the one that's made of aluminum. With it comes with 2 spacers, a different depth. I had originally set it up with both spacers on. Found out when I got the mount here the other night that it didn't allow for enough in travel, so I had to take it off and put the bigger of the 2 spacers on. Last night I found out that for looking at something like, say, a street sign down the street, it was okay, but the moment I tried to focus to infinity, I didn't have enough inward travel. So in the dark, I had to take the big spacer out and put the little one in, which wasn't that hard of a do. I mean, since I've done this now 4 or 5 times already, not to mention I had to take this whole unit off twice because I had to modify the internals of the scope to allow for again, you can't see it, the corrector plate, but it's allowed for more travel because the tube here for the focuser was too big to go through the original hole, and I had to go ahead and take this whole unit off and then make the hole bigger, which was not that hard to do. Just you had to take all this front corrector plate off as well as the focuser plate and make those corrections with a Dremel. But this new focuser is a lot better than the old one because it doesn't allow for any flexure whenever you try to lock it in. The old one, whenever you wanted to the adjust it and then lock it, it actually press the screw up against the tube, which would then cause flexure, which would then change your focus. However minutely or big it was a problem. And also that increases whenever you start hanging additional weight off of it, which in the case where I'm going to be hanging off of it, digital SLR camera, as well as this camera and this additional off-axis guider and coma corrector. That's a problem, because then all that additional weight will actually cause more flexure than I wanted. Thus, when I'm talking about long exposure photos, that actually can make images blurry. So this was like a $280 upgrade altogether for this focuser piece. That included everything I needed: the adjustments, spacers, the tube, which is a 2-inch focuser. It came with some other accessories such as an extension that allows me to get more out of it, because I need it for some of my bigger eyepieces, like my 26, my 30, my 40, 45, 44 I think it is. Those require much greater out travel than my camera does for prime focusing. So that's in handy, as well as it came with a 1 1/4 for using 1 1/4 eyepiece and accessories. Also, one of the things that was a big advantage over the old one was same problem as far as this one has a compression ring, versus just the thumb screw going in, pressing against the tube, which of course doesn't change your image in the result, which is what you want. Attached here is my T-mount for my Canon EOS that I already had. Some people might be wondering why I didn't use a guide scope. Well, you shouldn't for a Newtonian or a reflector telescope, because there could be a minute but big enough to notice for photography difference in between the flexure from temperature between this and weight, and the difference in here, which means over time, due to heat changes as well as the weight and the orientation of the telescope, there could be changes between what this sees and what this sees, because they actually physically may minutely change directions. So you want to use an off-axis guider. Problem with off-axis guider, obviously you need more in travel, because it obviously takes up a lot of room here that would normally the camera will mount directly to. So, which is why I needed a modified the plate here with the dinner one. I can actually take this all the way off and have it go straight to here if I needed to, for maximum in travel. But considering that this is focused in and I still have that much left, that shouldn't be a problem. And these are ball bearings. I'm not ball bearings, but roller bearings. So it does allow for smooth action back and forth. So last night, this morning after setting this all up and finally getting the camera focused in on something to set it up, so now that the camera is actually focused in agreement with what the SLR will be seeing as far as focus wise, that's good. Now that this is set, I don't have to worry about this. This is locked in, and I made sure I tightened everything down as possible, as much as I could. Because I did later on move this, I will have to adjust this later on, but that's no big deal. I do that every day anyway. But the next problem I had was, of course, getting the software to work. And I'm using PhD guiding, and I'm also going to be using another program by them for actually taking the pictures. I didn't get that far last night because the guiding program has to control the camera, which at first I had a problem getting it. Simple problem, install the drivers. But the second problem, which actually I still haven't fixed yet, was getting my telescope mount to talk to the program, so that the program can actually control the mount once it actually finds the guide star. Because the first problem I had was, okay, now I got to set up, the camera's working, now it's seeing something, but what I saw out there was blurry. It was horrible. It was barely, and the stars went around, they were oblong looking and faded. And I didn't know if I had the focuser wrong. 'Cause I would adjust the focus and it still wouldn't correct it. I didn't know if the prism was in the wrong alignment. I didn't know the spacing between the camera and the holder was wrong. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Why wasn't I seeing what I was seeing? There was two things I was having a problem with. For one, and it's something I didn't realize until after the daytime, what I see here is not what I see on the main scope. It's actually, since it is a prism and it's siphoning off the side of it, it's not the center of the image. So whatever I have in the center in it is not the center here. This one was significantly off, which means what this might see could be tremendously different between what I see here. So here I would set this up for a bright star in the center, and I wouldn't see it here. Now, and I didn't know why. Well, come to find out, it might not be nothing wrong. It just that I was looking for something that this camera was not able to see because it was out of the field. Now I know that. Not quite sure how I'm going to fix that, other than relying more on my finder scope because it has the wider field of view that I can set it up and say, okay, yeah, this is what I should be seeing, and set this up. Okay, now I see a bright star here, and then once I take the bright star and guide on that, now whatever I see in here will be guided, and that's maybe that's a workaround, but that's what I'm gonna have to work with right now, until at least I figure out a way to get around that. But back to the problem is, I had to install the drivers and everything for the mount, and since this is it's a weird mount, the way it deals with auto guiding. It is an auto guiding mount, not in the way that a lot of other modern telescope mounts guide. It doesn't have a dedicated guide port, which if it did, I wouldn't have any problems because the camera itself has a dedicated guide port, which means I could have just run a cable straight from the camera straight to the mount, and that'd be the end of it. But the problem is, since this telescope mount does not use the standard ASCOM methods, at least not externally, you have to use a roundabout way to get into that. And since this is a auto guide star or auto star telescope using an auto star computer, I had to jack in to the bottom here using a RJ11 cable, because this telescope itself doesn't have a auto guide port. It has aux, which I have no idea what auxiliary equipment you're going to hook up to, because obviously you can't hook up an auto guide to it. But so there's no auto guide port in here. So how do you get it to auto guide? How do you get commands to it? Well, had to link into the bottom of the auto guide computer. Since I have a newer computer, we don't have any serial ports on here. So I had to get a USB to serial adapter. I already had it for controlling the mount via the Meade software. And of course go to my computer using the USB. And had to install drivers, 2 sets of drivers. First ones were for the standard ASCOM driver set, because I didn't have them already installed. And then I had to install basically some modified driver files for the AutoStar 1 type mount, which is what this is. And once I did that, now the program actually saw the telescope, and it said it was communicating. And I was like, okay, that's connected. All right, that's good. But whenever I actually found a guide star to guide on, and it started to attempt to guide after calibration, it would fail. And I think the problem is it clearly was not able to move the mount fast enough, or at all, because it would guide and say, all right, now the star's over there, move there. Telescope doesn't move, it loses track. I tried to manually move it using the PhD software, and it didn't never move for me. However, I know that I can move it via the Meade software because I did it all night. So now I got a problem with not being able to move the telescope, even though the right drivers are installed. Now there could be some settings, because there's a lot of advanced settings that need to be set, but I didn't read all the instructions, and it's probably my homework for tonight or today. Some other things that I ran into a problem really early was cable management. As you see here, there's a lot of cables here, and this is not even all of them. This is only the cables that come with it here, and with the exception of that one. And then I had the cable, USB cable for the camera here. Also had a cable for the SLR camera, and Um, what else? I had another cable for something else. So basically, I had to deal with 3 cables. And that's not including power, which is something I'm going to deal with, once I get an AC adapter. And I was routing them through the door here. So I had to get extension cables because I didn't have enough length to get to where I need to go to. So that was the biggest problem I had to run into initially, was being able to find a long enough cable to reach. And then once I did, now I'm going to have 3 or 4 sets of cables coming out of the telescope. Now, a better solution that I'm going to have to work on tonight or today is going to be buying a USB hub and mounting the hub somewhere on the mount, so then I can jack all my USB devices onto the hub and have a single USB cable coming out to the telescope, from the telescope to the computer. That way, that will simplify the cable management. I don't have to worry about ginormous extension cables going everywhere. But I still will have to worry about the power, which right now I'm using battery, and well, that's good for mobile use, but it could die really fast, and it's heavy and expensive after a while. So eventually I'm going to have to get a power adapter. Not a big deal. So once again, the problem I'm having right now is getting the software to actually move the telescope. Once that problem's solved, that really should be all of it, all the problems I have other than cable management, and I should be able to guide without a problem. Other than that, that's about it for right now. Cable management, getting the guide set up, tightening stuff down, and doing some additional research on drivers. That's about it.